How the heck are you, everybody? I'm Fast The Fastidious. Welcome to my channel, and welcome to someone that isn't me. I'm not alone today. We're doing our fourth collaboration in our class-by-class tier list series for epic champions, epic heroes in this game. We are joined by the fantastic WorGuides, aka War, aka WG. I'll let him take it from here. Thank you so much for being here, man. What you got to say?
Yo, what's good? Hope you're doing fine. It's me, WorGuides, War, however you wanna call me. Basically, you might know me from Discord already, or I've seen one of my text-based guides, and if not, do make sure to check those out.
Absolutely. And guys, if you've spent any time on the official Discord for this game, he is literally omnipresent. He is everywhere. So big shout out to WorGuides. And he started off in like this text medium because he was on holiday, he was just telling me, and his guides are really great, so check it out. But now he's like fully getting into the whole audio visual element, as you're seeing now. So definitely check him out on Twitch. You're streaming like almost every day, right?
Yeah, basically since the 23rd of August, every day at least.
Crazy.
I've been no-lifing this stuff. I have like 8 hours per day streamed.
It's amazing. And then also he's getting into the YouTube content too. So I'll have all those links. You'll see it coming up on the screen. You'll see it in the description. You'll see it pinned to the top comment. And I also want to say, guys, like it's not just like some big YouTubers, right? Like he's an expert, so we need him on the channel, right? He's an amazing streamer, amazing content, and he's really good with endgame stuff. As you're gonna see, I'm sure we're gonna butt heads a couple times here. So guys, epic healers, class by class, the tier list. Let's kick this thing off.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
Number one on our list, not number one ranked, maybe we're gonna see, but Lightlocke, a totally free-to-play champion. He's a permanent epic fusion in this game, dual faction membership, a Watcher and a Northerner, maybe a bit controversial. What do you got to say here, WorGuides?
Yeah, exactly, regarding controversy, as Fastidious calls him, the fallen hero, reason being his recent patch, or as people called it, the big nerf. But in the end, it wasn't even as big of a nerf as everyone expected, because of the fact that they didn't reduce his damage, but they just reverted his kit pretty much, and only fixed him being able to hit infinite targets on his ultimate, and reducing that down to 10, which doesn't take away from its true value for gear rate 118, especially if you're lacking mages on your account.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you missed it yesterday, and well, first off, let me start by saying we're talking about healers here, and the first thing out of both of our mouths is damage. That is a place like Lightlocke shines, right? And like a big thing to note as we go through this list, when we talk about who are the absolute best healers and worst healers, it's usually not going to be the healing that is the differentiator. It's like whatever that extra thing is, because we don't have like a straight up support class in this game. So essentially a lot of these healers, like, I think you're going to agree, right? We need a little extra utility or support or something.
Yeah, unless you talk Vortex, eh?
Yeah, okay, which we will pretty soon. But guys, with Lightlocke, it was a nerf, but let's be honest, he was broken. Like, clearly they did not mean him to be like the only hero, or one of the only heroes in the game that could literally hit infinite targets, right? So his damage was, you guys probably saw, I had so many guides on Gear Raid 1 and Lightlocke, and even when I knew the nerf was coming, I said, just build him now, quickly get to 118 and get power dominance, because it's that cracked. Like, he was broken. He could put out 30 million damage on an account that should have been at like Gear Raid 113, not 118. He's still really good. So if you missed it yesterday with my Gluttony guide, I did like a mini spotlight on Lightlocke. He still put out like 14 million damage, and he was the #1 DPS carry on like a very free-to-play team. So when it comes to just straight-up progression, I think we're agreeing here. He's not like the, you know, ender of all things god, but he's pretty darn good. Yeah.
And especially with how he was before, you were able to get through with gear that shouldn't have been possible for 118. But now you just gotta up your gear that little bit, just give him those proper stats he needs, and then he'll still perform at the highest level for 118.
Yeah, absolutely. So you might have to be slightly more patient, but I'm telling you, you can still, he really will help you progress. And then just talking about him as a healer, guys, so he's attack-based, he's a single target healer. He's got a pretty nice range. I'll show you really quickly. When he goes full promo, he gets like that full nice rectangle. Overall, he's just solid. As a healer, the heals are significant. He could, you know, he's a bit squishy just by virtue of not being HP based. He's attack based, but he's got that great extra utility of dealing some proper magic damage, which is for a lot of us hard to come by. So let's head back to the list. Do you want to take them through the letter grades we gave here?
So for Lightlocke, for Gear Raid 1, it was an obvious choice to give him a very, very decent rating for Gear Raid 1 just because of that added damage. In Gear Raid 2, he works about fine, but there's especially the point where that squishy-ishness of him comes into play. The fact that he is attack-based and really takes a lot of damage from the golem, which he can't really tank by himself. And also that he's single target healing, which doesn't give him the ability to heal all your units, what is something that you especially want in Gear 8 2.
I'll pick it up there with Gear 8 3, guys. I'm a big fan of him here because you don't need much healing, and the fact that he has that rectangle in front of him, not like some heroes like Midan or Ezreal where it's like a line behind, pretty solid. You'll get a touch of damage. AMR, we both just think, like, why? Like, you're not going to need him. He's not the best healer. And if you're going to use a healer, which you might at the end, we're going to talk about a lot better options. Guild Boss, he works, but he's a little squishy, and it's really going to only be like a beginner champion, your initial progression. Arena, we give him like a solid C here because he could put out damage. But as you're going to see, guys, when we talk about...
Wherever you would use a healer in Arena, so the only place where you really consider using a healer in Arena will be sustained DPS. And in sustained DPS, you do have a lot of enemies where his damage could come into play, though he is not going to play the biggest of roles.
For sure. And in general, as you'll see with a lot of these arena ratings, guys, except for one that might jump off the page at the end, we really don't believe in using these healers in arena if you can avoid it, because you only get 5 spots, right? It's not like a full 8-man team. Campaign, he's pretty great. Why not? Faction, we think he's S+. I mean, he's giving big heals, he's giving big damage, and he's got, you guys know this from my other videos, if someone has dual faction membership and he's the only healer that has that, they're getting big points in my book. Finally, Void Rift, we're giving him like a solid C. There are going to be better options at almost every turn, but he's still usable. So overall, what do you think we should give him?
He'll help you for your first normal Void Rift clear.
For sure, yeah. But as you get to like the higher stuff, and especially like, if you guys don't know, WorGuides is like super endgame right now, or he's definitely focusing on that content. There's no way you'd ever use Lightlocke, right?
Yeah, nah. To be fair, I never really needed to upgrade him in the first place.
Fair enough. So what are we thinking for an overall on him?
Overall, something along the lines of a solid B.
That's what I think as well.
Most likely.
I think just because to represent his status as the fallen hero that he truly is, I do want to give him that B+. But I think
give him that plus award. Make
give him
it
that
look
plus.
like he performed at the highest level.
At the very least, guys, he provided me with like 6 videos of content, so he's getting a plus just for that. Let's go here. We've got Lightlocke, and you guys, we've got this beautiful tier list. You might be saying, hey, that tier list is a little prettier. It's a little sharper than our previous ones. WorGuide actually designed this one and cut out these images himself. So go check that out. It's like totally free, right, on Tier List Maker.
Yep.
Looking a lot sharper than the ones we had in the previous videos. But there we go, Lightlocke right behind my head. That's a nice B. Back in the gallery, guys, let's pick this thing up with Vortex. So Vortex is someone we chatted a lot about, guys. Vortex is a tremendous hero that we're all lucky to have when we get him. What do you want to say about him, WorGuides?
Yeah, Vortex, arguably the best epic healer in the entire game, if we're talking strict healing, and also easily the best single target healer in the game. Even Ezreal isn't a competition.
Yeah, guys, his heals are just juicy. You know, they are huge. You really can't argue with them. And the reason I'd say I'm going to agree, you guys know, if you've been watching my content recently, I've been loving Ezreal now that I 6-starred him. And Ezreal is really cool that he can heal everyone on the map, but he's still attack-based, right? And being an HP-based healer in this game is so versatile. And then when it comes to the fact that he's got these huge single-target heals, and then they come with shielding, it is really, really impressive stuff. And then on top of that, I think we're all familiar, he's got that like famous Vortex range. It is just, I mean, look at that thing. It's huge.
Monstrous range, yeah.
Monstrous range, guys. And I also want to add, he's a northerner, just like Lightlocke had the dual membership, but being a northerner, I think, is like a huge plus when it comes to his shields. Like, he synergizes so well with his faction because it's like a shield-based faction when it comes to those Lord skills. Anything you want to add here? Should we head back to our list?
Vortex is pretty much just synonymous with the word healer. If you ever look for a healer for any piece of content, Vortex is your man or your elemental, whatever.
That is very well said. I pulled Vortex as my first, actually, this is so appropriate. My first 2 healers I ever pulled, epic healers, were Lightlocke, and then like 10 pulls later, Vortex. And I'll tell you guys, Vortex he hasn't left like half of my comps, if not more. He stays.
Yeah, and I can tell you the other side. I started out without any Vortex, and it did take me at least a month to get a Vortex. And the moment I did get him, yeah, Gear 8 2 content went through the roof. Some campaign stages become easy. Like, he just opens up so many doors. It's incredible.
It's really true. And speaking of Gear Grade 2, guys, we'll take you through the letter grades here. Gear Grade 1, just for the sake of how big that range is, we gave him a solid A there. And you guys see here, for unique abilities, these are basically like the unique things they're known for. So Lightlocke was our fallen hero, as we mentioned. Vortex is just single target and then just like all caps shield. So Gear Grade 1 just very solid with that range. Then just like WorGuides was saying, just like WG said, Gear Grade 2, that is an S+. Those shields, guys, those screeches, those earth shakes, they hit so flippin' hard. Without a Vortex, and if you don't have a Vortex, you probably don't have Sadie, you might be SOL, like it is a game changer. Without a Sadie, I've been able to do 220 with not the best an account, right? You guys have seen it. Nothing like WorGuides' account. The reason is largely because of Vortex, right? On to Gear Grade 3. We argued about this a little bit. I think it's an A just because the range lets you kind of turn your brain off a little bit. But again, guys, with Gear Grade 3 in general, it doesn't take much. You just need some form of healing.
Yeah.
Right?
In the end, he gets a solid score. His job in Gear Grade 3 is keeping your units alive, and he manages just that.
Yeah. You want to pick it up with AMR?
Yeah, for AMR, especially if you want to keep anyone alive in the double healer stages, even when you get down from 2 healer slots down to 1 healer slot, Vortex will easily be able to keep any tank alive, especially with the investment. And if you do time your shields right, you'll be able to block Salazar's ultimates quite well. And yeah, even with 18, depending on your tactic, you can easily use him there too.
No question. Guild Boss, I'll speak here. We spoke a lot about this because I used him here. I do think he's in the A range. We went for A-. He doesn't bring much extra utility because his heals are big enough that you don't really need the shields to tank it. I will say at lower levels, those shields might be the difference between your team getting wiped or not. However, I think we could talk about this now, I guess. We had a long conversation. We had like an hour-long phone call in my Discord lobby, so check that out, guys, if you ever want. We host a lot of like community collaborative chats there. But WorGuides was nice enough to come on, and as someone that uses like tons and tons of fighters, because I don't really have so many good single target Guild Boss platform units, for me, having that little extra bit of range, I use Vortex as my only healer, besides someone else on this list we're going to talk about who's not actually a healer. I need it, but you want to share your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so especially if you're using a lot of fighters and if you can't really deal, like if you really want to reduce down to 1 healer but can't go below 3 fighters, then you definitely need a Vortex, because you won't reach him with just 1 AoE healer. The range just isn't enough to cover all your fighters properly, besides if you're then able to reduce your fighters. But if you really are running the fighter team starting out with the standard Nightmare, it's definitely worthwhile to use Vortex, and his only job is also to only keep them alive through the meteors, through the infernal roars, and that's all that he needs to do.
Yeah, and we are not going to give him higher than like an A-, because as you'll see with some other healers on this list, you don't need so much healing, especially later on, and his extra utility just being the shields and the range, it's not enough to put him in that elite category. For Arena, you guys might be familiar, if I give someone a D, it means they're like technically usable, but like almost worthless. He's not going to help you at all in Arena. You don't need shields in Arena. You don't need a big range in Arena. Campaign, I think we're going to agree wholeheartedly, S+.
Yeah.
Nasty. I mean, I got him really early, right? So not to rub it in your face, but he made so often I just never had to think about hero placement because I just knew Vortex had it covered. Moving on to faction, really strong. There's so much shields in this faction, it synergizes really well with a lot of passive skills too. This could go up even higher, but you're getting the shields from like a million different places in this faction, so I think it keeps him from being proper S+. And then Void Rift, I mean, that range, those shields, the tankiness, the HP based healing, that's an S.
All you could ask for in a healer for Void Rift.
Fair enough. I think we're going S here, right?
Obviously. The numbers speak for themselves.
Enough said. All right, let's get this guy down an S and let's keep on moving. Next up, someone you really like, so let's get you talking about her. Another Northerner. It's going to be none other than Midan.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't really appreciate Midan, but Midan, if you would take Vortex out of the picture, Midan is no doubt the second best, or then if you take out Vortex, the best epic healer in the entire game, and only the only AoE focused epic healer. Even her kit, the ability to debuff, so like remove a debuff, cleanse a debuff, while also increasing the defense, is incredibly useful and makes her a key hero in Gear Grade 2 alongside Vortex.
Yeah, guys, and I what you just shouted out is kind of why I'm someone I haven't like slept on Midan because I still use her all the time. But to me, like I just love Vortex so much more. However, and I say this a lot in these tier lists, right? When we release in this right now, we're filming on October the 5th, right? At this time in global launch, there's not so much content you need to like dispel buffs for or maybe get an increased defense. But I say this in a lot of things, right? Things can totally change. These will have to be updated as new content gets in. And I think you'll agree, right? I think if we get more content with more debuffs, she's going to be like a rock star. Like,
but especially even now, if you do want to get into Void Rift Heart, even Void Rift Nightmare, and you don't have an Element, you might as well bring in Midan just to cleanse for the phase 1. That poison is nasty.
Those poisons are brutal, and like that's like basically one example of content, right? But like you guys have played other gacha games, you know they're just gonna throw more and more debuffs at us as things ramp up and we gets harder and harder as this game matures. So I'm tapping her in my head as like a candidate to just become like a proper superstar. Let's head back to our list.
And also she prepares you. She really prepares you for using, let's call them endgame healers, right?
Oh yeah.
Her range is really useful, and it's definitely a good thing to get used to the AoE healer range, because the moment you pull an Eloin, if you already practice with me, then you're going to be easily swap over and be able to figure out already the positions where you would place her in a stage. So it's already a good thing to get used to using different types of healers and different types of stages.
Yeah, no question. Like, it's definitely like some part of the reason everyone loves Vortex, especially early on, is he's just so user friendly, so easy. There's a bit more strategy and nuance to the placement. That's a really good point with someone like Midan, who has the exact same range as like Eloin, who's like the endgame queen. Let's head to our sheet now, and let's break this down. You want to take it away, WorGuides?
Yeah, so Gear Rate 1, what makes it especially useful is the ability to obviously heal all your units. And even if the boss does have, especially in the earlier stages, a lot of AoE attacks, like that Dragon Coffee does, which attacks all your units, where it's especially useful to be able to heal multiple units at the same time. And also, even going into the highest levels, it's not unusual to see a Midan being used even for Gear Rate 119 and above, because she can by herself keep a whole side, so either the right or the left, whichever you choose, alive by herself.
No question. Gear Rate 2, I use her here. I can speak to her here. She's like, with Vortex, like nothing pairs better if you're going to go the epic route. You know, like if you just need that last top off and that last bit of AoE, she's really good. And then for me, actually, it's actually that increased defense from her passive that made her like invaluable. Like I went from like failing to all of a sudden passing when I like started relying on her a bit more, making sure I was triggering her at the right times. Gear Rate 3, have you used her here?
Yeah, so one thing of note, as you see, we gave Lightlocke a B+ for Gear Rate 3, and one of the reasons is that if you only are starting out in Gear Rate 3 now, keep in mind that you can't use Midan for stages 10, 11 or 12 because of the way the tiles are placed. So if you want to use Midan as your healer for Gear Rate 3, make sure to only start using her starting with stage 13, because the tiles are just closer together, allowing you to make use of her AoE range.
Yeah, and like this is why I wanted to bring WorGuides on, right? Like total expert, not just endgame, but knowing how the maps evolve in each level. Yeah, it's more spread out there, right? So with that really constricted AoE range, it doesn't really work. AMR, she just doesn't have the reach. Like with that kind of range, like Eloin works because she gets her little wood elf to help out. Midan obviously doesn't have that. Guild Boss, she's like serviceable, but as we talked about, she's gonna get a knockdown from Vortex because like the way you don't need the shields really, you're not really going to need to increase defense. And if you happen, just because a lot of us do run those nightmare teams, she doesn't have the range. Arena,
so do let me give a bit of insight there.
Please.
Even though in the beginning you might turn to using Vortex, and that's totally fine, especially until you start getting into Nightmare 4, and then your mission is to break the shields, right? And if you want to break the shields, you need as much DPS as you can get, which would also be reducing your fighters. And if you reduce your fighters, you're most likely going to have a self-sustaining fighter, or one way of self-sustain outside of her range for Guild Boss. At that point, it also becomes crucial that she can remove the debuff, because one of the strongest artifacts is going to be Flawless Blade, and her ability to remove the burn from the meteors to keep those Flawless Blade stacks up really allows her to kind of, if you're talking endgame min-maxing, do overtake Vortex, but that obviously only works if you can reduce down to 3 fighters and start building teams focused more around Dolores that we're going to talk later about.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have some of the other healers, or one of the specific other healers we're going to talk later about. Arena, we're giving her that same grade as Lightlocke. Like, she could work, her range works a little bit better, the AoE works a little bit better as well, but still, it's like, we're just suggesting don't bring healers most of the time. Campaign, solid S. The only reason she doesn't get the S plus like Vortex is just Vortex just is getting that crazy range. Faction, total S plus, I think. I think those AoEs, there's a lot of damage going around for her faction, really good. And then Void Rift, honestly, total S plus. Like, we do need the cleanse.
Yep.
Yeah. So now for a hard question, man, where are we going to place her? I think I know what I want to say.
I feel like it is definitely an A, if not a strong A.
I think an A plus, yeah, I do. And I think that plus, guys, is going to be, I probably would just give her the strong A, but then the plus is like, I do think when we look back at this in like 2 months when more content's out, I think she's going to be even more of a rock star. So let's get her over here and let's pull her up to that A. We're filling out rank by rank now, letter by letter. On to the next, on to a crazy one. I certainly am going to have things to say about her. Let's talk about Hollow. Ooh, very rare.
Yes, I did pull a Hollow, but let's be honest here, Hollow is more of a myth for most accounts because her rates do seem kind of suspicious. If you are lucky enough to pull a Hollow, you have one of the greatest, if not basically the only rage booster from the epic category, and the progenitor to Element, pretty much.
I don't know, actually, WorGuides, if you've kept up with my summon rate study, but we are at almost 500,000 summons counted at the moment of filming this, and let me tell you, it's not just a theory.
That's huge.
Yeah, we are. I can share it with you after this, but guys, the link for that will also be in the description of the video in the top comment. We're still, today's probably the last day or two. We're gonna take stuff before we publish our first part of the study. That sheet will stay open indefinitely though, but I'll just tell you guys right now, Hollow is showing up at like 1/6 to 1/7 of the rate that you would expect for a normal epic non-lord hero, and it's not a coincidence. The ones they picked to make rare are Deimos and our Greed and our Hollow, right? So why is she just so cracked out?
Epic, yeah.
She's so top tier. I mean, her heals probably at best rival Vortex, probably more realistically are a little bit worse. However, especially as you get into the later game and then the end game, you need a lot more than the heals. You're gonna have great builds. She's got more than enough healing. She does have, let's shout it out if we go max level, she's got that copyright Vortex range.
It's not a Vortex healing range anymore. It's Vortex Hollow, baby.
Vortex Hollow, baby. But then this rage regen, so WG talked on it. When Light Bliss is activated, so that is the ultimate, recovers 0.6 range for all allies for 1 second. This is going to go all the way up to 1.4, but it gets even better. So not just when that's activated, but just any healing. So you got to put a Soul Stone in her because you're probably not going to pull 2, at least for a while, unless you're crazy lucky. Put that Soul Stone in. Any heal at all is going to restore 1% of rage cap. So build this girl with a ton of attack speed, get those basic heals out, and I think you're going to thank us later, right?
Yep, indeed. She is going to take you places you never thought you would get without her.
Yeah, very well put. She is just nasty. She's very high on my list of most wanted heroes. However, I'm not going to get my hopes up. So I'll kick it off and then I'll hand it over to you. Gear 1 S+, super endgame viable, right? You're going to need to get this. You're gonna need to get that rage up. You might be using, even if you pull an Element, you're not going to not use Hollow, because then you're just going to run 2 rage boosters to get even more of that rage. Yeah, you can do comps endgame, guys, with only 1 healer, but if you do have Element and Hollow, the meta for you is going to be to run both. And Hollow with that range, she's just so nasty. Gear 2, we're going to go B-. Like, she's really good still, but she is attack based, and that's going to be a demerit. Also making her single target, and her healings obviously aren't the greatest, because let's be real here, if she did have the healing effect of Vortex, it would just be ridiculous. She would be a legendary for sure. If she had Vortex's range, she already is kinda. Yeah, she guys, with me and Beard Energy, she was on our legendaries in disguise list, and for good reason. Gear 3, we said healers don't matter here. She's kind of a nice exception, because that rage regen is cracked out. So like, as long as you guys are taking any bit of damage, an A1 Hollow is going to help you so much kill that Zealot boss and do all those crazy things. AMR, you've used her here, I haven't. You want to talk about that? Yeah, AMR, for example, there's one little trick you can do. You can make use of a Deimos. So normally, if you really want to clear the highest level of AMR, you're going to need a certain amount of HP, being 39,000. But what you can do is use a Hollow,
to push a Deimos to get his ultimate up fast enough, so you can just ultimate with Deimos and he survives Salazar's ultimate that way, bringing down the gear requirements. And just a rage regen, obviously, the more rage you have, the more ultimates you pull, the sooner the boss dies.
Yeah. And yeah, of all the content in this game, like AMR is like the only like proper race, like that in arena, I guess, right? So just having that rage up and just that's a great way to beat the boss. You know, you can see all these strategy videos all the content creators put out, but you can just brute force it.
You'll notice there's a lot more races in this game than you think, because especially once you start getting into Void Rift Heart and Void Rift Nightmare, Hollow even there will give you the edge, because in the end, most boss fights are very complex, but do very much boil down to kill boss before boss kills you.
Yeah, true. And there's, at least for the normal, you know, mid game, late game, there's no better example than AMR. So honestly, I think we should probably go S+ here, just because
might as well.
He's never gonna fall off. You know, once you get that power dominance, you will like have no healer at all. But no one's gonna help you get there better.
Keep in mind one very important thing. If you do start using her in AMR, you are going to need Oleg. And you'll get your Oleg from level 40 of Void Rift. And once you have him unlocked, do make sure to upgrade him, because he is definitely one of the best tanks. And if you do have the artifact, it's called North's Will. You might as well need to make use of that artifact, which allows him, or Vortex, Oleg, to regenerate health when his shield breaks. So because you are going down to a single target healer, that means that Hollow is more focused on healing your fighters back up after getting hit, instead of healing the tank primarily, which is why Oleg comes in clutch.
Absolutely. Yeah, guys, if you saw my Oleg guide, guys, it's only a legendary artifact, so people sleep on it, but that North's Will is so good because he's just getting that 10% heal even at base level. It's super good every time the shield pops off. Moving on to Arena, we're giving her a slightly better grade than the others so far, just because the rage regen can really help, especially if you're using like a high ultimate cost champion. Campaign, obvious S+, I don't even need to think we need to discuss it. Vortex range with rage regen. Faction, total S+ there. I'm almost certain she's the only healer in the entire faction. Right now you don't need a healer in this faction, but as we know, in just 5 days time from the time of filming this, we're getting 3 more levels, or 3 or 4 more levels to all the faction trials.
Yeah, but at least for the moment, we don't need a healer to clear the faction trials. So if you don't have a Hollow, don't worry, you'll at least be able to clear the first 9 stages.
Absolutely. And then finally, Void Rift. This is a great S. So I think I know what I want to give her. I want to give her a very, very solid S. What do you think?
Yep. I would go with you there.
Now for the hardest thing we might do the whole day. What's the order? It's tough.
I would still argue for Vortex, because even though Hollow is great and Hollow does all those amazing things, Vortex just opens more doors, metaphorically speaking.
When
he allows you to clear more specific content.
When we had our initial call about this, we spent a lot of time talking about this, and I think what it boiled down to, guys, is like Vortex is like kind of a necessity for a lot of stuff. Hollow is just an amazing like luxury, right? But you don't always need the sports car. Sometimes you just need like the truck, and that's kind of the difference there. Moving on to the next on our list now, to probably the best healer in the whole game, right? It's going to be Lily.
Absolutely magnificent kid. Incredible healing multipliers, and
I hope you guys, please, I just have to make it clear, of course we are not telling the truth. Lily is, she's not great. She is not great. Anything you want to say about her?
If you kind of want to describe her kit, it's mediocre with sprinkles of might be usable, but very hard to apply.
Exactly. So just to break it down very quickly, she is an attack-based healer. She's got, I'm pretty sure, the exact same range as Lightlocke. Her healing multipliers are way worse than Lightlocke, and she's not free. Lightlocke is. The one thing, like maybe she's usable, but it's super niche, is she's got this thorny protection that basically gives like an unkillable effect and makes one of your people that's about to die immune to damage. It's cute, but right now it's like it would be really niche to find a place to use it. Is there something that could come one day? Maybe. I don't know. I think overall she's just weak. Anything final you want to add?
Yeah, nah. She's certified as a healer, but she doesn't do healing very well, which obviously puts her down. And even if you try use her gimmick, you would need to make one of your units die, which is always not the best of ideas, putting them into dangerous situations.
Let us know in the comments if any of you have done this, but I think you'd have to just be doing it for the memes or doing it for something really cheesy to build something like that. But it could be interesting, but I just think she's not a very good healer. She just isn't, simply put.
And even if you check out their talent, the damage increase isn't that big to make it worthwhile to sacrifice a unit for it. Yes, 30% might sound big, but it doesn't end up being enough to justify putting a unit in the fire.
And to build a whole strategy around it instead of doing something else. I don't think that 30% is going to be what moves the needle. So let's head back here. We can break this down really quickly. So I'll just do it. Quite frankly, not good. So you see we called her here. Her unique ability. She ain't it, guys. She ain't it.
Her unique ability, she just ain't it.
She just ain't it, y'all. GR1, technically usable. We're giving her that good D. That came out wrong. GR2, maybe we could use the Thorny Protection, so we did give her a C-. GR3, that good D again. AMR, no freaking way. And guys, keep in mind, like, you get Lightlocke for free, and he's better, and we still said no to him for AMR, so obviously for her AMR, there's just no way. Guild Boss, technically, but like no way. Arena, hell no.
Even then, no.
Even then, no, yeah. Faction, we'll give her an A because there's only 2 healers in the faction, and if you don't have Nissandei, who we're about to talk about, you could totally use her, but also you don't really need healers there. Like, you need barely any healing.
You do start to need a healer for the faction trial. So if you did pull a Lily and now you're kind of disappointed, keep in mind that once you start, or especially if you want to clear the latest stage, so stage 9, so starting from level 40, you're going to need the purple insignias. So once you start getting your Pantheon up to level 40, you can use Lily, and her only point is going to be at the bottom of the map. Keep your marksman alive so he can kill the boss.
Absolutely. I have pretty good marksman, so I actually did beat stage 9 without her. But yeah, for sure. And keep in mind, guys, we're about to get more stages, and she's super usable, obviously. Void Rift, no way. I think overall she's gonna get that good D, right?
If even.
Yeah, she just ain't it, guys. Let's place her, and let's move on to another piercer.
She can just go to the back line. She can kind of stay, yeah. No need to move.
She can just go to the back of the line. We'll go to another piercer healer now, guys, who we had a lot of talking about as well. I think one thing we'll agree with off the bat, let me know what you think, WorGuides, is she's definitely better than Lily.
She kind of has the same vibes, obviously being from the same faction, but as the same as we said, we are considering healers especially for the kids, for their healing here. And she definitely does her healing job way better, miles better than Lily.
What's interesting, guys, is they all have like an innate healing multiplier, which is not really told to us. So you can obviously stack healing effect to improve upon it. But like, it's quite obvious just with a very quick test that Nissandei has much better healing. In terms of extra utility, guys, she does do this attack speed increase. However, like, you guys know I'm kind of like an attack speed guy. I talk about it probably way too much. But attack speed is not exactly what everyone thinks it is. Essentially, you're stacking more attack speed on your base attack speed, and that will marginally, the diminishing marginal returns on how much that's going to lower your attack interval. So it takes X amount to lower 0.1 second, and then it takes a little more, and then a little more to keep lowering by 1/10 of a second, right? So let me just tell you right now, this attack speed increase of only 50, especially when you're at higher level stuff and building attack speed, might only get you 0.1 second less. And even later on, it might get you literally nothing. So it's really not...
Like Fastidious said here, especially early on, it can make the difference. Because early on, you do have more important stats to worry about than attack speed. So taking her in gives you, especially if you aren't building attack speed on your units, that big boost of attack interval reduction.
Yeah, so it is that thing, like that diminishing marginal change, that DMR. So it's like early on when you don't have much attack speed, it actually is a really nice thing, but she falls off a cliff for me in the late game. The one thing to point out is she does have this bounce heal, so similar, she's like in that way almost like an epic version of Ezrein, because she can heal outside her range. I think for that it's just like way more viable than Lily, of course, but you guys have already seen we've got better utility and better healers in the epics. So let's move right along. Oh, and one more thing to point out, she is a piercer just like Lily was, but she's actually pretty solid, and she does get that bonus if you got Lunaria from the shard summoning or something. She gets one extra line, so she can be a lot more usable if you do need some extended range as well in that capacity, she can work for GR3, as you're going to see in a second. So, Nissandei, you want to take us through it?
Yeah, so for Gear 1, especially in the early stages, she'll help you out. If you pull her, she'll do her healing job properly, but then just starts to fall off for the later stages, and she doesn't bring anything else besides healing to the table, really. For Gear 2, again, she's an attack-based healer. She has low HP and is only a single target healer, which makes her not as good for that content. Gear 3, she does add in that extra bit of attack speed, and if you do happen to have a pierce a lot, that extra range might come in handy, though you don't need to worry as much, especially for Gear 3. The extra range on your healers isn't as important.
AMR, we're going to go ahead and give her an A+, because that attack speed, especially through your progression, could be the difference. And her, even though she's single target, I do think her heals, from the testing I've done, are good enough to do like what Vortex does. But she's not going to be like this S tier option, obviously. But she could totally work for 18. You know, absolutely. Guild Boss, a bit better than some of the other ones we talked about because of the attack speed. If you happen to be running a Piercer team, she could cover everyone, so that's something, but she's not going to be a top choice. Arena, slightly better. Yeah, slightly better than like a Midan or Lightlocke, but you just shouldn't use her. Campaign, I think overall just pretty solid, but like very likely you're going to have better options.
Yeah,
I do think
she'll just heal.
Yeah, and like someone like Lightlocke early on who has like very comparable multipliers in the same range and is attack based, the damage you'll get from him is going to be far more utility, especially early on, than this attack speed. Faction, like S+, that's the healer you should use if you get her. Void Rift, I think basically no way. What are we going to settle at here? I think I know what number I have in my head.
Yeah, it feels like B+.
B+? Wow,
just from
okay.
the top of my head. Maybe a B flat.
Okay, I was gonna say B-, so let's settle on B flat. We can do that. I mean, no question though, as we go here to order, guys, I think we're gonna agree she's definitely right behind Lightlocke. So now on to our last. I'll let you take it away and then I'll give final thoughts. We can just put her right in S+. Guys, that marks the second S+ of this whole series. It took till episode 4 of 5 to find our second S+. But take it away. Tell us what we all already know about how cracked out Dolores is.
Dolores, you've seen her everywhere. You will see her everywhere, and she is going to be everywhere you look. If you don't have her, you're going to feel it, and if you do have her, you're going to appreciate it the more you play this game. In every piece of endgame content, you are going to find use for Dolores because her inspiration buff, so her giving a percentage of her own attack to other allies, just makes her that useful, especially because attack stat is just the god stat in this game. Attack percent is the most important thing, and someone that gives more attack to your units is basically the best thing you could ask for.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the way you started off really sums it up. Like, if you don't have her, you're going to feel it. It's a big problem in this game, guys. They really have done this thing where there's this damage multiplier, damage calculation, and it all starts, the first thing in the calculation is attack, right? So attack is king, attack is god in this game, and you're not going to find an easier way to pass those defense thresholds and get your attack high enough than with Dolores. The second you get her, everything changes. I just got her a week ago and literally everything changed. All of a sudden you are doing late game to end game content. It's a problem, you know. People are putting out a lot of content on it as well, just talking about it, because it shouldn't be like if you have X champion, you're good. If you don't, good frickin' luck, you know. But that's what we're looking at.
Obviously, there are certain ways around to right, compensating with better gear, compensating with better units that deal the DPS, and there are even you do realize it's kind of a problem if people are starting to build 3-star units like Nunea. If you want to take a look at Nunea real quick, then you could coach people that Nunea is basically the little sister of Dolores, and what she does is give a quarter of her attack as inspiration buff. And people are so desperate for an inspiration buff that they're even going all the way down to leveling Nunea up to 6 stars. That's a huge level of investment you gotta take for a 3-star unit.
Absolutely. And I will give 1 point to Nunea is Dolores has like basement level attack for an attack-based healer. Nunea is solid. But yeah, it's 4 times more, 60% versus 15%. I think that's a great way to wrap up here. Good shout out for Nunea. I love rare champions, and she's certainly, people that don't have Dolores, it's a desperate thing to do, but it's probably a smart thing to do if you really are that worried about never getting her.
If you ever wanna try replace Dolores in a bit of content, upgrade the gear on your damage dealers, and then bring in a Nunea and an Autumn, and they are going to kind of compensate for the fact that you don't have Dolores.
Yeah, and then what I will just quickly point out, because I know we have like a lot of newer viewers and a lot of new people have just started coming to the game this past month. Guys, if you're wondering if she's not as strong as you expected, this goes up to 40. However, if you go here, you have to throw a soulstone onto her. You have to get that A1, then it goes up to 60.
On the note of as strong as expected, this is a very big disclaimer and very important to notice. Dolores, everyone says Dolores is one of the top units in the entire game. But keep in mind that only works if you have the DPS units to make use of her.
Yeah, so basically, guys,
you need to build your roster first. So what you would want to do is, and my rule of thumb is having at least 5 DPS units on 6 stars already before you would even consider a Dolores. And because what you already talked about is that her base attack is that low, it becomes even more important that you only start using her once you get into the mythic gear. She is going to disappoint you if you do use her earlier, and she is going to eat your resources and give no return. Dolores is an end game unit.
Absolutely. And don't think she's just going to fix everything. Like, I just beat 319 largely on the back of Dolores. However, Dolores doesn't work if she wasn't having my super strong Tariel, Idril wearing my best gear, and that's who was getting the buff, So just, it's a really good thing to point out. She's not just like going to magically fix things, but if you're at the right spot, she kind of will. Let's head back to her.
Most important thing to keep in mind, Dolores is a buffer. She isn't a healer. She doesn't, especially early on, doesn't have any place in campaign.
Yeah. So great way to end our healer tier list. She does not heal, but that's because I'd love if there was like a support class or something, or utility class or something. I'll go really quick here, guys. The Inspiration Goddess, very easily could be argued she is the best hero in the game, or at the very least the most important hero in the game. Even on test server, guys, I'll just peek behind the curtain really quick. We only have one like proper competitor to her coming, and who knows when that's going to come. So a little teaser there. Gear Raid 1 here, S+, duh. Gear Raid 2, S. I mean, you don't need her, but she could really help you nuke down the boss at the end, and if you could use her, why not? Gear Raid 3, obvious S+. AMR, we're going to give her the rare B, you'll see, for her, just because you're not going to need her,
He's that good. She doesn't heal, and you can even make use of her if you so desired.
Yeah, because if you have like some setup and you've got those crazy great melee DPS, if you got your Salazar, if you got your Arrogance, if you got Zealotus, something like that, Dolores might just let you just forego all strategy, trigger that inspiration, and just bomb it down. Guild Boss, obvious S+, like is maybe S super plus. Can you even not use her? Like, she's the ultimate
You'll
must.
never find any team anywhere close to the top 100 or close to breaking the third shield without using Dolores, unless we're talking the craziest gear in the game.
If you want to if someone wants to go sloop through the top ratings, sleuth around. I mean, snoop or sleuth, the sloop around and find out. I don't think anyone doesn't use her. Arena S+, you don't need her, but boy does she help. She's on literally all of my arena teams right now in Overlord. Campaign A-, we're gonna give because you don't need her here, but of course she could help if you could fit her in. She just
basically for the later stages. If you really wanna get your weight, she's your so one normal weight she's through expert campaign is going to be using Idril, relying on her infinite ultimate, and then bringing in a Dolores and just have it Idril kill every single unit.
You can use Dolores, right? Use the Autumn Dolores combo with Idril, and just everything's an official joke. But that's a margarita pizza. That's full cheese, so that's an A-. S+, obviously, you need to put out a lot of single target DPS for that faction, and she's nothing's gonna help more than Inspiration. Void Rift, I mean, the most obvious S+ rating we're gonna give the whole day. And guys, obviously, this is going to be an S+. So, healers, guys, there you have it. We're going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts for you there?
Yep. As you've seen, we've made a healer tier list, and a non-healing unit ends up at the top. That's the name of the game. Attack is the godsend, and Dolores is broken.
Absolute. What a great way to drop the mic. Dolores truly is broken. Let me move myself out of the way. It's just Lily deserves to be seen, even if we don't love her. Thank you so much, WG. Thank you, WorGuides, for coming on. I'll let you sign off in a second, but I do want to say, guys, we have like a proper expert on our hands. I think a lot of times in these collabs, I'm like the knowledgeable guy, and you can see we've got the real knowledgeable guy this time. So thank you so much for coming, man.
Appreciate it so much, you reaching out over here, giving me the chance to come on here. And
absolutely.
Yeah, if anyone wants to, feel free to check out my stream. I will for sure be able to help you out.
Yeah, I'm going to flash the Twitch above my head right now. You'll also have his YouTube link and Twitch link in the description. And guys, fill out that sheet. I know I mentioned it briefly, but that summons rate sheet, I mean, we're almost ended the study, and it's going to be formally submitted to the devs. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We've got one left. We are going to do Defenders. It's another really cool, really interesting collaboration. I've been Fastidious. If you like the video, like it. Leave a comment if you want to argue with us, or if you agree with us. Share it with your mom. I'll see you in the next one. Perfect.
Fastidious.